Spike Lee's new movie's here in theaters, and Ben and I, we're going to tell you about it.
Yes, we are. It's BlacKkKlansman. We got a story of this cop, Ron Stallworth. Now, guess what? He's the first African-American cop in Colorado Springs. And you know what the story is about? It's about Ron Stallworth and a couple of his cop buddies. Are they buddies? They kind of become buddies.
Yeah.
How they infiltrate the KKK. Now, Jake, what did you think of this movie?
You know, Ben, I thought this movie was actually really great. It's I'm not a Spike Lee aficionado per se.
So when it comes up and says a Spike Lee joint, was that your first time seeing that?
Yes, it was. But I saw it on the poster, and I've heard people say it. I know it's a popular thing.
Okay.
It's a really fascinating true story. Of course, you know, you have a black man infiltrating the KKK, and of course he can't be there in person being that he's black. So, you know, his coworker, his Adam Driver.
Yes,
the excellent Adam Driver, you know, axes him in person, and then he talks over the phone. And that's probably the most interesting part of the movie. And of course, you know, shenanigans evolve throughout this movie.
They sure
do. They get pretty crazy to a point where it feels like it's definitely dramatized for the screen. Like some of these events feel very cinematic, like they weren't actually this way in real life. However, I know that does bother some people, but I can look past it. I find like it tells the story it needs to tell. For the most part, this is the true story. Key standouts in this, like some great things about this movie, are the performances all across the board. Of course, Denzel Washington's son,
John David Washington,
is great.
It's fantastic.
Adam Driver is one of the best actors we have today. He's excellent. But even like smaller parts, like all the KKK members are great, and of course, like these are. They brush it off so well that you'd start to believe they are this way, but that's just a testimony to how good they are. Of course, like I'm sure saying these things may be challenging or whatnot. But yeah, they're great. One of the KKK members' wives stands out to me.
Oh yeah,
she's great. Yeah. She's, you know, of course, a smaller part. There are no small parts in this. Everyone is great.
Well, even for her having small parts, very significant of what she does.
Yes, definitely, especially the latter half of the film, which we won't get into here.
I gotta echo what you're saying. Performances are fantastic. Adam Driver, I've been saying this for a long time, and great. Adam Driver is fantastic. You know what I love about Adam Driver? Every movie you see, he's got the same hair, mustache, and beard, aside from Star Wars, but he just rocks it, and he's great in everything. What I love about Adam Driver, any movie you see him in, he just gets into his character, and I love it. John David Washington, did not know that was, you know, Denzel's son. I knew it before seeing the movie, but for a while I didn't know who John David Washington was. And hey, if you were to ask me who would have been in a better movie this year, Denzel or John, I would have thought Denzel. John, totally. This movie, BlacKkKlansman, is fantastic. It is an awesome and important film. It starts off, and you see Alec Baldwin at the start of it, and, you know, he has a speech in the beginning that is very culturally relevant to what's going on in our world today. And this film ultimately shows that it is based on a true story. However, any movie that's based on a true story, they're going to take some liberties to make it more cinematic. And I actually heard an interview with Ron Stallworth and said it's, for the most part, it's a pretty accurate depiction of what he experienced. And this movie, I think it is a very important movie that everybody should go see, because within this heavy stuff, Spike Lee does put in some humor in there. It can, you know, he lightens it up when it gets too heavy. But the ending is so powerful, and if you think it's like light, or maybe a puff piece if you think that, I happen to not think that, but maybe if you do, the way it ends, it just grabs you, and it's very powerful. And if that ending doesn't affect you, I gotta assume you're a bad person? I gotta assume so. Sorry if it didn't affect you.
Yeah, I think the one word to describe this movie would be powerful. It reels you in with kind of like the lightheartedness of the entire film, just to kind of like knock you on your ass with the ending. But yeah, an important thing to mention is the humor. It is funny. A lot of it's kind of uncomfortable humor just because of the subject matter, but I think it walks the line very well.
I was talking about performances. You know who I think had a great performance that I forgot to mention? Laura Harrier. She is fantastic. Maybe you know her from Spider-Man Homecoming. She was great in this movie. I thought she was awesome.
And her character is interesting because she has those really polarizing political beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, she is very much leaning one way when Denzel Washington's son is very centric, and then this movie, yes, it is, and it balances the political spectrum really well. I don't think it villainizes. Of course, it villainizes the KKK. It villainizes those who deserve to be villainized. But wherever you land on the political spectrum, I don't think this movie's out to get you.
Yeah, and you know what? There's a scene in there with Adam Driver, and I won't give it away if you don't want to know anything, but there's a point when him and not John David Jackson, that's, you know what, there needs to be a bloopers of why I said John David Jackson. John David Washington. But there's a scene with Adam Driver and him talking, and they just happen to be talking, Adam Driver, about being Jewish, and if you happen to be Jewish like I am, it can resonate. It resonated for me for that.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It's great, yeah.
But you know who was great? I don't know him, but he wasn't like the head guy within the group. He was the one who had, let's say, more
suspicion about.
Yeah. He hopefully that that was very vague, but hopefully if you've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. He was fantastic in this. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I think each of the KKK members were all great, and they all were very unique. They didn't all bleed together where you're like, this is the KKK. Each one of them felt like a character within the KKK. And what I liked how they handled it was they're not like assholes all the time, like always spouting their racism no matter what. Like, these are people that like you could just see at the grocery store and you wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And, they're nice to one another. And that's what I think is haunting about these characters and about this
organization. You make a point there, and more on a real thing. I actually, we've known a few racist people in our lives. However, I have had this one friend who I didn't know to be a racist, but we had a conversation that really was like, wow, dude, you're a racist. And it just, after seeing this movie, it kind of came whole, because just before seeing this movie, I was talking to people. I was like, do you ever have a friend that you didn't know was a racist, and then now you know? Like, to me, I called him out on it, but like, do I? Like, what? It was weird. And seeing this movie, it, to your point, there are these people out there that you may not know to be that, and I felt like maybe that could carry to your point.
Yeah. No, I think that's a testimony to how good the movie is, how honest it is.
Yeah. Okay, some negatives. I'll start off with a negative I told you about. Now, when watching this negative took more shape throughout the movie. Is that the editing? I think editing, for the most part, it is good, but there's some decisions in there. When I first seen this, I'm like, was that a continuity error, or what's going on? And later you see some more of that, and I feel like they were just trying to do something stylistically. For me, it didn't work, and to go into that, it made, without context, I won't even say without context. Somebody takes a jacket off, and then you go into another shot, and he takes it off again. And there's a lot of that in there that stylistically it didn't work for me. I think some technical aspects were a bit off, and this movie does do some light things, and within that I feel there's some cheesy parts within there, but not a lot.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, there are technical issues, but it's bizarre how obvious these technical issues are. Like, there's a couple moments that are blatantly out of focus. What particular shot on a bridge was bizarre. There's a shot with two characters standing in line, and I swear to God, the person behind them, their shoulders in focus, and the two characters who are talking in like the same shot for like 30-40 seconds are not in focus. It's bizarre for a movie of this scale to have these problems, but it's totally not worth knocking this movie at because of it. It's it almost adds some character to it. Like, it feels like you or a buddy made it just for these scenes. It's like, oh, they're human like us. I don't hold it against the movie too much, but there are unique editing choices that you mentioned. Almost like an action movie where they pull out the gun 4 times to punch it like a corny action movie. It's weird. There's also a few unique editing moments where, it cuts to, you would expect just cutting to people's faces, but they're kind of like floating. And there's that kind of thing where it's like...
To go into that is, we talked, he hasn't seen that many Spike Lee films. Now, hey, I'm not going to say I've seen them all, but I've seen my fair share of Spike Lee movies. Now, maybe something he's referring to is a very classic Spike Lee move, but I totally agree. It's just, it doesn't fit within this film, but for something you've seen in Spike Lee films, you'll see it here. I just felt the moment of which it's used, it's not that effective.
Yeah, see, I don't even think I put it in the negatives. We mentioned it here because I knew it bothered you, and and the out of focus stuff kind of rubbed me a little wrong way maybe, but like these certain editing choices, they're just worth mentioning because they stand out, but they're not necessarily bad.
It's not going to ruin your experience at all. It was just something when the first time I seen some of the things I complained about, I was like, was that a continuity issue, or are we trying to do something stylistically here? To me, not everything's perfect, so I'm going to have to say what's negative, and those are some things that would make it there. It's a good movie. You know what? It's time to score this thing.
All right, hold on. Before we started this review, I was hard-pressed to think, because I haven't seen it for a few days or whatnot, and I was hard-pressed to think of what do I want to say, what are specific things I really liked and really didn't like. And all I could think of was how amazing Adam Driver was. But as we talked out the film, I started to remember things, and especially how it relates to real life, that it is a really smart and powerful movie. It was just going to be me coming in here saying it's a super powerful ending and Adam Driver is the man. But I think that I got some more out of it. And really, my negatives were like barely, they weren't even negatives really. They're mostly your negatives, and I was just kind of helping you along. But this movie it's excellent. It's one of the best of the year. Go see it.
Yes.
I'd give it like a strong 8, late 9, somewhere in there.
You know what? We usually don't agree on many things, but I'm just right there with you. I'm at a high 8 to a low 9. I know people love just give me a number, but that's where I'm at. I think it's a very powerful film, and everybody should go see it. And one of the things that, hey, you may see this, and didn't the movie come out a little bit ago? It did. It didn't open up to many screens. We finally got it, and I was so happy because I was angry that we didn't have it.
Yeah.
I was looking at other movies, and I was like, why the hell are we getting this? I want to see BlacKkKlansman. And we finally have it. It's opening up wider. I know more screens picked it up. You should go see it. It's a very powerful film. It's a great film, but not only that, it opens up discussions that I think people should have, and go see it. It's awesome.